Good afternoon, Fan Expo Canada. How you doing? I hope everybody in this room is aware that this is the 25th anniversary edition of Fan Expo Canada, and that's a pretty big deal, right? We're going to kick things off in style with a guest who I think many of us especially remember from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Yes? There are also some fans of Pet Sematary in the audience. Yeah? Now, I checked, and we have some Trekkies in the room, people who have actually seen the documentaries, Trekkies and Trekkies 2. Yes? Very good. All right, yeah, let's see that live long and prosper. All right, good. Good. Now, to kick things off properly, for the first panel of Fan Expo Canada 25, we have to really blow the roof off this place to the point that we cause actual structural damage to the building. Do you think you can do that, Toronto? Do you think we can really blow the roof off this place for Denise Crosby? Let's hear it. Denise Crosby!
Wow, Toronto! I've been here 4 months, shooting suits.
This panel brought to you by
Just a little promo here.
NBC Universal.
Suits 9, final season. I know a little bit about final seasons. Before we even get started, I cannot tell you how fabulous it's been here. It's been for me to be here for the last 4 months and getting really to know your city in the way I have, living through the Raptors madness.
Did you go to the parade?
I did. No, I was watching the games though. And, I'm a California girl, so the Golden State Warriors took a licking. But I was very excited to see the city embrace that, and the energy of Toronto at that time was so exciting. I wish Kawhi would have stayed, but that's another subject. But it's just been great. So it is. This was just a natural for me to come here, and the timing was perfect that I could come here to Fan Expo. It's been a while since I've been here, it's just I could just kiss you all. I just love this city so much. So thank you for having me. And let's kick off Fan Expo. I'm your first victim.
Take pictures of all you want. I want to do a little bit of time travel, which fans of Star Trek know that Star Trek's a big fan of doing.
Yes.
Take us back to when you got the offer to play Tasha Yar. We were just talking a moment ago. You were in a play.
Well, okay. So actually, when I got the audition, and it was for the part of Deanna Troi. I was shooting a film called Miracle Mile. And I had just finished doing a play called Tamara. And it was one of the most amazing plays. You followed the actors room to room. So it was like an interactive experience in the theater. And it originated in Canada. So Moises Kaufman, who, I don't know if you guys know, he's from here in Toronto. He started, if I'm not mistaken, City TV. Moises Znaimer. Forgive me, Moises.
My name's also Moises. So
yeah, so I've got, who the hell is named Moises? Okay, Moises Znaimer. So he produced this play. So, you know, here we are full circle. So that was, you know, the fact that you're the only other Moises I think I've ever met in my life. And
well, we planned this, Denise. This is your life.
Oh my God. That would be so cool if Moises came out. And, oh my God.
We should have
You should have done that. Man.
So you originally read for the part of Dina Troy.
Yes.
They ended up going a different direction and made you chief of security. What was the atmosphere like in that production just as you were starting? I know the fans weren't necessarily on the side of this new Star Trek show at the time.
Yeah, no, they were, there was a lot of criticism and mumbling. Of course, this was way before Twitter, and thank God, can you imagine Twitter?
Back then you had to actually write a letter, put a stamp on it.
Yeah. You had to, you know, yeah, exactly. You would send a hate mail. There was a lot of mumblings, you know, and I understand. Look, to be, in all honesty, I had misgivings myself about remaking Star Trek or doing a new. You know, it wasn't a remake, but it was a reboot of the franchise. I just thought, my God, you know, this is going to be a disaster. I mean, Star Trek was, you know, so iconic, and it's Kirk and Spock, and you know, these guys, we know them as part of our lexicon, and this is a treacherous move. And it wasn't like we had a network behind us either. It was a syndicated television show that would be, you know, sold to individual markets throughout the country. The first one ever made that way. So eventually, because it was a Paramount show, it was Paramount started its own network, UPN. So it kind of found a home, but you know, it was just on syndicated TV, so it didn't have a lot of cachet. I mean, we were like the little sort of scrappy little redheaded stepchild of the plot, and you know, nobody thought. I mean, we had the crappiest trailers, and you know, oh, they were just, you didn't even want to go in them. They pulled them out of some back lot and hadn't used them since the 40s or something, and you know, they had brown, ugly carpet and a desk and maybe a chair and one of those air conditioners, you know, that fit in the wall, and we had never any food. I used to go to the set of Cheers and steal food. They felt sorry for us and said,
Ted Danson's like, I saved you a sandwich.
The Cheers buffet was the size of this table, filled with, you know, sandwiches and fruit and veggies and crab claws and God knows what. And, you know, I would just grab like armfuls of food and bring it to the Star Trek set, you know?
Here, Frank, I saved you a crab claw.
Yeah, here's a claw. Yeah, we had tomato slices and cremora, you know, that was our snack.
Well, one of the things that has become more common is that people are talking about working conditions on sets, particularly as regards the way that women are treated. You know, talent, writers, everybody. You took
Finally, thank God.
As sad as all of us were to see Tasha Yar leave, though you did come back, one of the things that I find most admirable now, you know, the story can be told in the depth that it has been. What was it like taking a stand in that environment? Did you feel alone? Did you have people who had your back in deciding to leave the show?
What an interesting question. It wasn't through the prism of any sort of sexual harassment that I left this show. For me, it was merely frustrating as an actor. Gene Roddenberry was very set on keeping the template that he had sort of had success with the original Star Trek, and there were a lot of us. You know, there were like 7, 8 of us. You know, in the crew, and television was shifting in the late '80s, and you were having multiple storylines in television. You know, you had the Hill Street Blues kind of shook television up, and So you had a lot of interesting characters. It wasn't just the main character, it was the other characters that also had storylines.
There's this recurring kind of sub-threads of plots that different people are going through. The kind
There
of
were
things
A,
very
B, and C plots going on per hour. And so that's where my head was, and that's what I assumed it would be. And Jean corrected me and said, it's going to be about the captain and the first officer and Data, and then the other characters will kind of, once in a while they'll have a storyline, but that's the focus. And then of course the alien, visitor. And I just had to make a decision. By the end of we did 26 episodes a season. That's unheard of today. I mean, I just did a season of Suits, and there's 10 episodes. Their regular season was at the most 16. So we were cramming these, complicated episodes, 26 of them, and I thought, this is not what I wanted to become an actor for. I didn't want to stand on the bridge and just go, aye, aye, captain, and not even move. I actually asked them to make up some fake legs, and because remember the horseshoe of the bridge was on a rise above, the captain. So you could just stick my legs, these fake legs, and I had no lines.
You weren't even showing up to give reactions to somebody for their coverage. You were just there to have your legs photographed.
Yeah, it was just, you gotta know that Tasha's on her command post, but just put the legs there, just keep the camera low. And, you go to Patrick, he has talk, you go to Freya's talk, show Marina, and then she didn't always have a lot to say either. We were talking, the ladies, we were all talking, Marina and Gates and I, we had no scenes together. Very rarely was it just the girls. Like, they could have had a girls' night out on a holiday, Wouldn't you have liked to have seen that one?
That's all what I was getting at, is it feels like where the show was at that time, it took yourself standing up and going, look, we're not part of the creative process, we're basically props. I've got other things that I can do with my career. At what point did your castmates know that you were leaving the show?
Well, it was a long process. This was not a rash, me coming up at night on Monday and doing this on Tuesday. I ran it by everyone. I put, feelers out to everyone, and nobody wanted me to leave. Nobody wanted me to leave, and they tried in their own way to just, say, but maybe, it'll get better, it might get better. And I said, finally, when I had the final meeting with Gene, and he told me literally these words, it won't get better. I went, okay, I gotta go. And that's when he decided he wanted to kill this character. He said, the only problem with that is you can't come back. We showed him.
Let's jump ahead. What was it like coming back to the show? What was it like getting that phone call?
Amazing. So, the producer, Rick Berman, calls me up and out of the blue and said, listen, there's a script that we want to do where Tasha is alive and in the present. And I went, huh? How? I said, oh God, it's not one of those, it was all a dream. And he said, no. It's this very elaborate time, space warp. Would you read it? I said, of course I'll read it. And it was Yesterday's Enterprise, and it was just such a well-tuned, script that I said, God, I don't even understand the damn thing. Okay, yeah, I'll do it. Of course I'll do it. And it was just it was like a little treat. I never I never expected that, nor was that mentioned to me or promised to me that, you know, we'll figure out a way for you to come back. I mean, that Skin of Evil, that was it, you know? As a matter of fact, in the episode that airs before Skin of Evil, and I know one of you will know this. Is it Justice? No, that's that weird one where we all jog in hot pants. At the Blonde Planet, right? What was it called? Google it, okay? It was the episode before, it was the second to the end of the first season. And we flipped them because the script for Skin of Evil was ready first.
Symbiosis.
Symbiosis. Thank you. Nerd.
You're a funky nerd.
Love you. Symbiosis, you know, what was thought to be my final shot ever in the series of Star Trek. I waved goodbye to the camera, and they used it in the episode. And I was doing it as a joke, you know, because it's traditional, you know, for the blooper reel, or, you know, you think it's your last, so you do something stupid for the camera, and then they'll say cut, and then, you know, you'll do it for real. So they said cut, and then they brought out a cake. And they said, oh my God, you know, we love you, Tasha, whatever, you know, congratulations, thank you so much for being part of our show, blah, blah, blah. And everybody has a little cake, and everybody hugs me, and then it's done. And I'm going, and I'm thinking, they didn't reshoot that tape. Okay. And so go back and look at it if you haven't seen Symbiosis, and you'll see me waving. And I was waving, the point is I'm waving to the fans goodbye. That was for the fans.
So you came back once, then you came back again.
They keep keep bringing me back, right? Like Al Pacino. What is it in Scarface?
Yeah, Godfather.
Oh, The Godfather. Okay. God, you guys, nerd. I love you guys. You could answer anything in this room. I'm not kidding. You could answer anything.
I mean, the show literally had to end before you could be sure that you weren't coming back for the show again, because we got you right there in All Good Things, in the very last part of the show.
Absolutely. And that took me by surprise,
Yeah.
that one, because I thought, oh, it's Tasha Yar. I know. Oh my God, I live this character. I love this character. I know. Put on my little spacesuit, and I get in the little capsule with you know, Picard, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even, what? There's a fly. It's Data. And so I was completely, you know, shocked for a minute. I had to really like kind of wrap my head. I assumed I knew exactly this character, but you've got suddenly, you know, Patrick with his, you know, wonderful voice. Tasha. Oh, I haven't done this in a while, you know? So it took me a few beats to kind of get back. What is going on? Does anyone have a fly swatter? You know, but it got up to speed. It was kind of, and I'm a vegetarian, so, you know,
Just trying to
kill it. I'm trying, but they're not working with me here, Fly.
So there's the life of the show that people remember you from, and then there's also the life you've had doing these conventions, you know, being among the fans, doing documentaries like Trekkies and Trekkies 2. What has it been like engaging with the fan culture? Was there something that really took you by surprise, in particular, when you started doing conventions?
How do I answer that? I mean, the fan culture is so much a part of this. And that's what I wanted to express. I wanted to give the fans a voice. because, you know, you don't have Star Trek without the fans. It is a complete symbiotic relationship. And, you know, I was absolutely fascinated by this aspect. It's one thing to be an actor and get a job and be, you know, be grateful enough to have landed in a TV series, and then you have this whole other, you know, door open up into this world that is unlike anything else. Now, of course, we've seen 30 years later the embracing of, you know, DC and Marvel and genre and, you know, all of this sort of stuff that wasn't there when I started. It was still a pretty low-key convention scene in a small town somewhere. They would invite us. There was San Diego Comic-Con. That had you know, was the granddaddy. But it was really the comic book artists. It wasn't, you know, Hollywood pulling out their, you know, next TV show to put out in front of.
Yeah, they were putting, you know, suits on the wall of the Hilton, you know, for all to see or anything.
And you know, now you've got stuff at Comic-Con that you go, why is that at Comic-Con? You know, it's like a show about, you know, cars or something. I don't know, but it, you know, it doesn't, or a medical drama. They just, because it's a massive audience and it's a quick response, and we've got, you know, Twitter and everything going at the same time, so different.
Do we have questions out in the audience? I have one more I want to ask you, and then we're going to turn it over to you. We're going to have more than one hand go up. Okay, all right, good. We've got more people. So, speaking of bringing you back and coming back to Star Trek, I hear Patrick Stewart has been busy acting in a little show called Picard. Jonathan Frakes has been directing on this show. Has something to do with Romulans, I've heard. Yes. How would you feel about coming back to Star Trek again?
Oh, that would be so good. Sela wasn't fulfilled for me in the series. I had great notions for that character and ideas for that character. And once I did the Star Trek Online, who plays Star Trek Online? Anybody? Okay. So did you do the whole Sela, you know, world? It was so rich and so detailed and so complicated. And Al Rivera, who's one of the lead designers for Star Trek Online, just emailed me yesterday, and he just had a meeting with a story consultant for Picard to discuss how right it would be to bring Sela into the world of Picard. So I can't promise anything. I let the universe happen. Like, we'll just envision it and see if we can make it happen. I don't want to be that person that, like, you know, they roll their eyes and go, oh God, she's here, you know, trying to get on the show. You know, my feeling is,
no headlines of she says she's going to be in Picard.
Yes, if they ask, of course, I think it would, you know, because they're trying to mesh the online universe with the CBS timeline, and they're close. There's a couple little, you know, head butts, but I think that Sela is very much there, and she becomes the Empress of Romulus, and she doesn't do that great of a job. But she's trying.
Well, it sounds like you have one of the best cheerleaders you could have within the CBS world.
Exactly.
Maybe it wouldn't hurt to have a whole ton of cheerleaders on the fan side of things, telling everybody what they want to see.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can, if you'd like to do it, it's the power of, you know, the fan. Listen, there is no Star Trek without the fans. We know that.
Without the fans, without the Trimbles, reviving Star Trek.
Remember back in the, you know, and this is what happened in the 60s, you know, with the original God love him, you know? That's how Star Trek kept coming back. And here we are, 50 some odd years later, you know? Can you imagine? It's unbelievable, really.
Let's get some audience questions.
Yeah.
Right back there. Yeah.
What was it like working with, on a Blake Edwards movie with Burt Reynolds and John Ritter?
I'm so glad that I didn't ask my Blake Edwards question so that someone could ask me.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Nobody ever asks me about that.
Can we start with, what was Blake Edwards like as a director to work with? Every director's set is different. There's a different kind of personality to it.
Probably one of the easiest going, mild-mannered, relaxed sets you could ever be on. He purposefully created a very calm, easygoing working relationship with his crew, with his set. Many people worked with him over and over and over. He always used the same people, as any great director will. It was just marvelous. He could think on his feet. He could come up with stuff, you know, on the fly. I feel really privileged to have worked with, you know, a master.
What were your co-stars like?
Oh my God, John Ritter, what a dream come
I
true.
mean, was he? Not everybody is on and off when they're working, when they're behind the scenes. Was he always just, you know, a kind of wisecracking, fun guy to hang around? Was he quieter? What was he like?
Yeah, he wasn't, you know, I mean, he wasn't like Three's Company kind of guy, you know, but he had a great sense of humor and wit and smart and kind. Just love. And I got to work with him. I worked with him twice. I did a movie of the week with him as well, with Katie Seagal, and he was just absolutely a delight. You know, hung out in his trailer with him. He had already done, you know, the Billy Bob Thornton
Sling Blade.
Sling Blade. He had done Sling Blade. What don't you know? Okay, he had done Sling Blade, so, you know, we were talking, I mean, that movie was amazing. And he was just a great guy. God, what a loss, you know, what an awful loss. Too young. Bert. Wow. Okay. Wow. So the man who loved women. I was as green as they come at that point, and, you know, I remember driving to the set. It was a house in Malibu, and my first scene, in typical Hollywood fashion, was a love scene with Bert, and along comes Kim Basinger to join the fun, you know, so it's a threesome. And that's my first scene. Now, I had been fitted with wardrobe, with the incredible Anne Roth. She's multi-Oscar winner wardrobe. And she had designed in this lovely little sexy lingerie outfit. And the premise of the film is, you know, this man loves women. It's a remake of a French film. And I'm in bed with Bert, and Blake decides, because he was shooting all the love scenes in 1 week. Just get this all out of the way, this rough stuff, and then we'll get on to the real movie. And they were nude, the women, in the previous days. So I come out in my little lingerie thing with my robe, and he goes, you know what? No, you gotta have nothing on. And I was like a deer in the headlights. And Anne says, oh, but this is actually sexier. You know, this is, he goes, no. They did it, the last couple of days, the girls were nude, and, you know, that's how we're doing it. Now, I was all of maybe 25. I didn't know that I could have said no. And here we go, hashtag me too. But Haskell Wexler was the director of photography, and he looked at me and he said, I got you. So you don't see anything in the film, but to do that to an actress is, really, now that I'm this age and in hindsight, is not okay. And literally, I had rights. I may have been fired, and that's what we all thought at that time. We'd be fired if we stood up for any of this. But it ended up. It was a very, very trial. Initiation by fire. Early in my career, you kind of learned that, anything. This is what's there. You've got it. The only one that's got your back is yourself.
It really means a lot that you're willing to tell, that part of those stories, because it makes a difference. I'm sure there are aspiring actors in the audience that have not had that experience of being asked to do something they're not comfortable doing and having to make a decision as to how they're going to react.
Well, the whole point of all of this, the whole point of #MeToo is to go forward in a different place with a different set of rules, with a different, environment, and that women don't have to be victims of this. And, and the younger actresses, I'm hoping aren't going through the same sort of stuff that, we had to do in the 80s. You had, the thing is there was no one to go to. There was no, H&R,
Yeah.
I couldn't go to the studio and say, this guy just asked me to take my clothes off. I was fitted, I had a costume. I went to a costume fitting. And I get to the set and now they ask me to be naked? That's not, now there was no one I could say that to that would have cared. They said, honey, if you don't do it, you're out of here.
Thank you so much. We're here with the lovely, wonderful wave.
What was it like working on The Walking Dead?
Wow. Well, The Walking Dead made me keep my clothes on. Let's start there. That was...
What season
I
were
didn't
you
even know I
in
was going to tell that story. I've never told that story.
Once in a lifetime, only for the
Never.
next one, right? I've done other movies
with Blake, but it took me right back to, that was my first day with Blake. And, I don't want to, because I'm going to diverge for a little bit, but I just think that, it was part of the time and the conditions and, where power was in the movie business. It was completely run amok. It was men had just free reign, really. I'm lucky I didn't have worse than that. There's a lot of women that had worse than that. And Haskell Wexler had my back, so nothing untoward happened. But I want to be sure that we understand that. The Walking Dead was amazing. That I had never seen an episode when I got cast, so I binge watched the first 3 seasons. I now know that my big strapping athletic son, who's playing for the Kansas City Royals, who's a baseball player, yeah, hey Steve.
You just got a bunch of Blue Jays fans to apply for the
You know what? I would. Oh my God! Let's hope he gets up here. I love the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
I mean,
Denise Crosby wants to trade the Blue Jays.
they're trying to get better. Okay, let's just put it up. They're in a restructuring. They like to say.
It's a rebuilding
It's a
year.
rebuilding.
A series of
It's a
rebuilding years.
rebuilding year. It's okay. It happens, man. It happens. I'm okay with it. I've been a baseball mom for a long time. See what happens.
Was he a fan of the show?
No, he had never. Okay, so I said. So this was a couple of years ago, so he was, younger, he was in high school. Oh my God, let me just say how much street cred I got with his high school. But when he came back and said, yeah, my mom's doing The Walking Dead, it was like suddenly these boys were at my house that never knew my name, never said one word to me until I got on The Walking Dead. I went, there must be something to this thing, this Walking Dead thing. And so they, oh God, we watched 3 seasons. And I said, is this freaking you out? I mean, like, I don't want to be that mom that makes you crazy, And I said, are you okay? And he said, oh, Mom, I'm fine. So one day, he was in the backyard, and it was dusk, and he was like playing with the dog, or like getting something out of the backyard, and I came out of the backyard on the porch, and I went, boom! He nearly fucking freaked out. He was like crying like a little girl. And I said, I don't know, is that Walking Dead thing getting to you? It was so funny. Torture. He got me back though. I was at a con, and I came back on a Sunday evening, and he and my husband bought a giant ceramic, real life, it looks so real, pig, and stuck it in the garden. And I came back, I was, been at the con all weekend, I was so tired, and I had a little office in the back of my yard that, so I threw my suitcase down and, I had to get some stuff in the office, and I'm walking down the garden path, and in my periphery, it looks to me like a wild boar in the yard. And I screamed and ran, and they just were laughing. They got me back. The cast of Walking Dead is amazing. They are, it was just such a warm and friendly and cool, welcoming show to be on. And, that starts with Andrew Lincoln. He is just, a real beautiful soul. The first time I met him, I got to Atlanta where they shoot, and I walked into the makeup trailer, and he was in the makeup chair, and he just saw me in the mirror and jumped up and gave me the biggest hug, and just, oh my God, we're so glad they're here, and this is wonderful. And I thought, my God, does he think I'm Meryl Streep? What a welcome, and Norman, so cool. Everybody's great, so all good. Great, one of the better times I've had.
Oh, really?
I wanted to ask you about Key West.
You guys!
I told you, greatest fans of all time.
I mean, seriously, you're asking me stuff that no one asks. You're like asking me, how does a communicator work, or, stuff like that,
I might be remembering wrong, but I feel like you went straight from Next Generation to Key West. In my memory, that's what happened. And I'm wondering what the difference was like in the 2 environments shooting, and what it was just like working on the show.
I think we shot Key West in '92, so I think I left Trek in '87. Oh, the end. Yeah, right? So the show was made in 87?
87 started,
Yeah, okay, so maybe in 88. So I did
Okay.
Pet Cemetery between the two. But what a magical place. Has anyone been to Key West in here? Really? What a trip, right? It's just this, you know, it's the southernmost tip of the United States, and it's just this mixture of, you know, Cuban, LGBTQ, old salty conch sailors, you know, freaky hippies, drunk people. I mean, it's just mishmash of stuff. And it was a great series that didn't get enough time because what happened was, so it was made for Fox. We did it for Fox. They aired it. Well, the head of television, while we were shooting Fox, left to become the head of the film division. So they brought in a new guy to run the head of television. And typically the heads don't want what the other guy did. They won't nurture it along. Sometimes shows take a couple of
They
seasons.
want to bring the me era into that.
That's right. They're like, oh no, you know, that's his thing, unless it's like off the chart, you know, success. But they dropped the pilot of our show opposite like Bill Clinton's, you know, inauguration was going to be, where Barbara Streisand was going to sing for the first time in, you know, 1,000 years. So, you know, it was, you know, we didn't have a chance. I mean, the whole country was watching that. And, you know, it just was, we got sort of, you know, sidelined. But the show was fantastic. I loved the place. We all were pinching ourselves going, is this real? I ride my bike in board shorts and flip-flops to the set. You know, it was just really very cool. And great characters. Yes?
What do communicators work?
That's what we call that. We've got about 10 minutes. I think we should be able to get to everybody if we go quick. We're going to go right up here. Yeah, third row.
Can you tell me what it's like working on Suits now?
Yay!
Please tell us about Suits. This panel brought to you by NBC Universal.
Suits, the final season. Oh my God. So, again, I don't know, man. I must have did some good things in a past life because I'm getting wonderfully rewarded. That was one of the best working environments I had. Here I was in maybe the toughest position I've ever been put in as an actor. It's the final season. It's a well-oiled machine. They've been together 9 years. It's a very specific type of dialogue and delivery, and I'm playing, you know, their evil boss. So I come in to just kill them. And it was the most welcoming, warmest environment ever. Yesterday was my final day. I was shooting my final scenes. We had a huge toast. NBC Universal provided mega bottles of champagne, and the entire crew and cast were invited. We took a little pause. Different people spoke, all the main characters. There's only 3 that are on there now that have been there from the beginning. We have Louis Litt, Rick Hoffman, Gabriel Mock, and Sarah Rafferty. So they all spoke. No, Rick did not. I don't think he could. Meaning he was too emotional. But they were both so eloquent and compassionate and grateful. spoke with gratitude that you know, a 9-year run is spectacular to have. And here you've got a princess, you've got, you know, a spin-off, you've got all, you know, I mean, it's amazing. And the creator of the show and the executive producer said the kindest things to me I've ever been told on a set. They said that, I don't need to toot my own horn, really. I really, but since you asked, they said that, he told me that the actors acted, I raised their game when they acted with me. Now that's, it doesn't get any better than that. I look for that when I'm acting, you know? When I'm acting with Patrick, he raises my game. Not so much with Jonathan, but with Patrick. I only say that because it's coming Saturday. But so that was amazing, and the creator of the show, Aaron Korsh, said he can't wait for another showrunner. What's the title of the person who creates a show? The showrunner asks him, "Should I work with Denise Crosby?" He said, "I'm going to tell you you're an idiot if you don't work with Denise Crosby." So that I did my job. I hope you guys watch. I mean, it's not, you know, really what we're about here at Fan Expo. I mean, in terms of, but you know, we all have different interests. Hell, I watch, you know, baseball games, so, you know. But tune in, it's because my characters, it was just such a delight playing this character. She's a badass.
So they tell me we've got time for one more. Who wants it the most? Who wants it the absolute most? Are you here the rest of the weekend?
I am here the rest of the weekend.
She also has photo ops at 7 o'clock.
So come to the
Yeah.
table. I'm talking too much. Let's hear you guys.
That's the beautiful thing, is coming to see the talent. All right, I'm going to be terrible and make you pick. Who seems like
Oh God,
she's biting her lip. She wants it so bad.
let's do two more.
Okay.
1 and 2.
All right.
Okay, you go.
Alright, you touched upon it briefly when you were invited to bring back Sela for Circuit Online. So I was just wondering, what were your thoughts on that, and did you have any creative input into those stories?
They were very welcoming. Any suggestion? They are so smart and so detailed that I couldn't even touch it creatively. I was just grateful, and I met the creator, the designer at a con. Fans, I'm going to be really brief. Fans said, you know, we hear. By the way, have you been approached to do Star Trek Online? And I said, no, I've heard about it. He said, well, they're bringing the character of Sela, and I was like, oh no, who's doing the voice of Sela? And all of a sudden, this guy in the audience raises his hand, and he goes, Miss Crosby, I'm the lead designer of Star Trek Online, and we would love to have you. It was a Star Trek convention in San Francisco. They work up north, they design up north in Northern California. I know exactly the moment he and I had become great friends, and he stopped my back. He's the one who was at the meeting yesterday with CBS.
Wow.
All right.
All right. I can't see your rank. Hips. Are you a lieutenant or lieutenant commander?
Yeah.
I'm just two, lieutenant.
All right, lieutenant. What do you have? Engage.
I just want to say, like, I love your character, and I totally cried when she got killed off. And it's such, like, nowadays we have, like, Black Widow and all those, like, strong, sort of, like, kick-butt female characters, but what was it like for you, who originally read for Deanna Troy, to come on set with, like, giant guys like Worf and Data?
Worf? Who's that? Not an issue.
He told, like, no, you're head of security.
Right? You know, in hindsight, I am so, one of the greatest takeaways I have from being on Star Trek are the women, the young women that I'm meeting, who who watched this as a young girl and saw the possibility of being a determined, strong, outspoken female who wasn't afraid, who had a right to be there. I can't think of a better note to leave this on because that's my greatest love.
Denise has follow-ups at 7 o'clock. She's here through Saturday, as I understand it.
Yes.
So
I gotta wait for Frakes to get here, right?
One of my favorite things is when my hero's reputation precedes them. This is the first time I've gotten an opportunity to meet you, and your reputation from fellow fans who have gotten to meet you over the years have been nothing but glowing and nothing but the absolute perfect encapsulation of what this experience has been like. You're so generous with your time, with your heart, with your experiences with your fans. Can I ask you real quick, before we say goodbye, do you recall some of those first convention interactions with fans that touched your heart, that they shared things about their life and what your work meant to them that you couldn't have possibly expected?
I think I was touching upon it just now. What really has, always taken me by surprise, and not by surprise now, but in the beginning, were the young girls who felt empowered by seeing a character like Tasha Yar. I'm trying to, sort of frame it in the 1980s when the show first came on, and when you think about what was on TV, there weren't a lot of women that looked like me. I had short hair, but still, was a feminine role model, and but in a different way that wasn't being sort of the standard.
Pretty strong and sexy.
She wasn't. It was a breakthrough because, and I think Gene knew that very well because I walked in with this short haircut and he went, "I love it. It's right. It's modern. It's let's do that." And that meant something. Girls were tuning into their show and going, "Well, that's a different role model. That's a different symbol of what it means to be, feminine and strong and sexy and that kind of thing. It's a different package. We don't. In other words, we don't have to just do that. It can also be this. So that's amazing and completely not by design. I mean, that wasn't what I just was who I was, and fortunately a crack opened and the door opened and we went for it. And I think it's great. Now women can be whatever they want to be, right?
Two last questions for you out there. Can we get a round of applause for the crew that make the show?
Let's keep it going. Thanks to Denise Crosby for joining us.